All right, so today we have an absolutely amazing guest. There's a lot of things that she's been able to accomplish, but most importantly, I don't think she would have been able to accomplish as much if she didn't have to go through so much. And so, without further ado, I'm gonna allow her to share her story, specifically why she's doing what she's doing, because she's doing absolutely amazing things all the way from Saudi Arabia, right? But without further ado, who is it that I'm speaking with today?
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction, Elijah. Today you are speaking to Dr. Catina Thomason, and I am a native of Wayne County, North Carolina. I attended Meadow Lane and Greenwood for elementary, junior high, and then I graduated from Southern Wayne High School. So
Mm,
I am a native of North Carolina.
mm.
Graduated from North Carolina Central University with my degree in biology and my minor in chemistry
Come
and
on.
moved back home to Wayne County. And the only thing I could do with my degree was teach. And so I started teaching at Goldsboro High School, teaching biology. I did that for a couple of years, and then I came out of the classroom and started working in human services.
Mm,
Started out as a habilitation technician, or what some would call a community support worker.
mm.
Worked my way up to a qualified professional, but I was working with adolescents with mental health issues, substance abuse, and developmental delays.
Wow.
And working in that capacity sparked my interest for special education. So
Mm.
I did that for about 8 years, and then I decided I wanted to return to the classroom. So I came back as a special ed teacher. Well, I started as an instructional assistant in a self-contained, emotionally and disturbed classroom,
Wow.
and then became the lead ESC special education teacher.
Mm,
Um, 2015, while working at a middle school, I developed an after school program called ASAP, After School Assistance Program,
okay.
where we served fifth and sixth graders after school with enrichment and remediation in reading and math, because at that time the school was almost going to be under review, so to say, because they weren't making adequate growth. That's how you
Wow.
would put it.
Was it because
So
of the fact of the students weren't graduating like they were, wanting to, based off of the number of kids that were coming into the facility and they weren't graduating enough, or what was it that led to them basically getting reviewed?
at that time is I found out working in education about the politics that it's about teacher accountability.
Mm,
Students are required to take end of course tests in major content areas, and if they're not scoring level 3 or higher,
mm,
then they get a grade that's not so good. And after you don't meet your annual growth more than a couple of years, then the state can decide to come in and take over, and basically reroute the things that you're doing to turn the school around so that you can get your students up to a level um, that they are succeeding at the same rate as everyone else in the state. So they call these Title I schools, which are a lot of times your underserved schools, which are usually people that look like us.
mm.
So working in this Title I school, that afforded me the opportunity. I wanted the students to do better, so that's why I created the after school program. Um,
Wow.
it was around for 1 year, and that small group of students that we did work with, all of the students that participated consistently did all gain at least a 10% growth range in their reading and their math scores. So I feel like that was my first leadership kind of opportunity to get
Yeah.
my feet wet.
Yeah.
But I think I told you before, like at the end of 2015, the beginning of 2016, our principal has shared um, a news article with us where Goldsboro, North Carolina ranked number 5 for poverty. And
Yes.
that did something and changed my trajectory a little bit. I was younger, and so at that time, I left North Carolina and I went to Florida, where I started working for a public charter high school that specialized in dropout prevention. It
Mm,
served students in grades 9 through 12 that
mm.
were students that were counted out, fell through the cracks, underserved. And in this program, they were they had access to a curriculum that was digital, accelerated, and self-paced. So it wasn't a student having to battle with a teacher and instruction. It's basically the teachers were facilitators in the room and the students earned as they learned. So we
Wow.
graduated students every day. So we capped out at 225 students, but we literally graduated on average 100 students every year. So I did that for 8.5 years.
Jeez.
My last year there, I completed my doctoral work. I graduated from National Louis University in June of 2025.
Mm.
And the man that asked me to marry him decided to take a job in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, where he is teaching the Saudi Navy.
Wow.
So I have been in Saudi Arabia for a year. It
Wow.
has been a wonderful experience. But since I have been here, I have had time to just settle down
Mm.
and refocus my brain.
Right.
So in this time of refocus, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with this educational leadership doctoral degree.
Yeah.
And the Lord put it on my heart that I wanted to do something specializing in dropout prevention because I have done it for a while now. And in that capacity, I was the assistant principal, the special ed teacher, the testing coordinator, the community partnership liaison person. So like I can build a system and I know how to run a system
Come
effectively.
on.
So
Come on.
um I'm now building a framework for my business, which is CTR Consulting.
Mm.
And I wanted to bring back and give back to my community. So I've been trying to figure out how I wanted to do that.
Mm.
So I created a framework called Reengage that starts with relationships and ends with ecosystem collaboration because I feel like it
Mm.
takes everyone in the community, everyone, no matter if you're a student, a parent, a business owner, mental health worker, just juvenile justice worker, whoever you are part of the ecosystem. And it takes everyone. So where they say it takes a village to raise a child, it actually takes everybody in the village to raise a child for that child to be successful and grow up to be a productive citizen in our world, which is becoming more global. And I feel like we need to make our students more globally competitive because
Mm.
we used years ago, it was what we talked about. Now it's here and I don't think it's going anywhere. So
Yeah.
um I decided to do a community listening tour,
Mm.
which consisted of me coming home to Wayne County, and I facilitated a community listening session at my home church with a group of stakeholders where I just asked them questions because I didn't come to tell people what they need. I came to hear from the community about what they feel is needed in the community.
Wow.
I did the community listening session, and then I've done several stakeholder interviews, and it seemed like every time I did an interview, that person would give me 3 to 4 more people that I should talk to about my work.
Mm.
So it was overwhelming, needless to say.
Hmm.
And I returned home to Jeddah after being in the States for 3 weeks. And I still have a list of stakeholder interviews that I need to complete.
Absolutely.
So once I complete the interviews, I am going to analyze the data and write a white paper and go and
Mm.
pray on what's the next step that I need to take.
Absolutely. That is so good. That is so good. And everything that you're sharing, I'm just visualizing because I'm such a visual kind of, person. And so it almost feels like, I was there with you as you were basically explaining everything. There was a lot of, challenges there, from, the man that you love is asking you to now move, and you're going to have to move, but now it's just like, okay, what am I going to do, right? And you mentioned that was an opportunity for you to really, sit down, really discover what the gifts and the talents that you believe God is calling you to, and you're like, He's been already developing me to be a leader. He's already been developing me to be the person that specifically knows how to bring, the special with these needs, right? That's not saying that somebody necessarily has a disability. It's just understanding that there's a way for them to learn. I want to show them how they can master that and just give them that or what they need. And so that's what I love about that, because everything that I'm hearing is you're willing to take action, right? And then,
Yes.
so with that being said, from you constantly just showing your relentlessness towards putting, the opportunity back into the hands of people that felt like, hey, the carbs is not necessarily in my favor. Has there been any backlash itself from coming from, again, like the North Carolinas and things of that nature? Has there been any backlash towards, even being a special ed, teacher or whatever the case may be? Like, or has there been anybody that said, you know what, these kids can't learn, they're not capable, right? Like, why are you even trying in the first place? Like, did you have any form of resistance, towards that, what you felt like you were getting called to doing?
So I will say that during the community listening session, what a major point that came to the forefront was that the community members feel like the ones that are active, I'll say that the active community members feel like they're a part of these different organizations, and different organizations come to the table and they sit and they talk about the things that I was asking them, and they come up with solutions, and then they leave the table and
Mm,
no one does anything. There's no follow through. So then the
wow.
question becomes, who is accountable for that?
Mm. And who has to
That
suffer?
is Yeah, that's a question that I can't
Mm,
answer yet, because I haven't sat at those tables to hear the conversations and what the plans of implementation were supposed to be. What organizations were at the table, what implementation and strategies were, what did they decide, and who's responsible for the implementation. So those are the type things that I'm going to try to dissect, see where there is a breakdown, because I talked to a lot of different organizations. It was communities and schools. It was the juvenile justice department, even up to someone that retired from North Carolina Department of Public Instruction that specializes in special education. And all of the organizations are working, but are they working collaboratively together?
yes.
Because they're working. I witnessed the work. I observed court. I've seen, some of what their work day looks like. They're doing the work, but
Mm.
where is the breakdown, and how can I bridge the gap?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's so good too, because it brings a lot of things, to the forefront of why this conversation is going to be so important, is because here it is, you have the education background, you have the teaching background too as well. So you, as being a teacher, how important has it been for you to instill these belief systems that your students can learn? It's just that you learn at a different pace, right? And I have a saying that says, you run at your pace so that you can finish your race. And so, how have you been able to show them through your words and through your actions that no, it doesn't have anything necessarily to do with the information? It has everything to do with how the information is getting delivered to you. So, what has been some of the challenges that you have been able to overcome for these students, and now they've been able to have a more effective quality of a life because of having a blessing like you in their lives?
I'll say this: the first component of reengage is relationships,
Mm,
and I have learned with people in general, you can't do anything unless you have a relationship. So
yep.
I learned with students, with children don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Mm,
And so in my previous position, because we had an entry process where you can't just walk up and pull on the door, I was the person that let students in the morning. So I'm standing outside with them and I'm letting them in two or three at a time, but I'm having conversations with the kids and
Yeah.
where, I'm asking them, what are your goals? What are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? And one of the teachers would do this thing around Thanksgiving sometimes. Sometimes it could be more. It was like Thankful Thursday or something like that. And he would
Mm.
have the students write on index cards of to a staff member in the building why they were thankful for them and have
Wow.
them go to that person's classroom or office or wherever and present it to them.
Mm.
So I have stacks of index cards where students would say to me, like they call me the morning motivator, like they appreciate how I poured into them,
Mm.
positivity that you can do anything you want to if you put your mind to it. And like you said earlier, it doesn't matter how fast you finish your race,
Yes.
at whatever pace, as long as you finish it. So, everybody doesn't learn at the same pace. And I would become a safe space.
Mm.
So, a lot of kids in the program that I was in, these kids, I had homeless kids.
Mm.
I had kids, when they leave you, they're not gonna eat after they
Right.
leave you. They leave on Friday. They may not eat again until they see you on Monday. I even had, and there was at one point in time, I had one young man that I
Mm.
would call him in my office when I got off the door every morning, and I'm giving him a granola bar or
Mm.
something, just because I know you hadn't eaten.
Wow.
It's little things like that, and once they know that you care and you pour
Mm.
into them,
Mm.
then you just continue to be consistent. And I've always been firm, fair, and consistent across
Mm.
the board because I want to see everybody succeed.
Mm.
So, when it came to the academic portion, if they're struggling, because I would have a lot of students that by the time they get to me in the 10th and 11th and 12th grade, they should have been staffed in special education and they never were for whatever reason.
Mm.
But we're here and this child still needs to be educated. So it's my job to figure out how are they going to learn this material.
Mm.
And it's sometimes something so small, like Johnny may not be able to sit in his seat for an hour. He may need a break every 30 minutes, 45
Right.
minutes, or whatever. And so let Johnny come to my office just to take a brain break. And then he recycles and he goes back to the room. Um, you know, Sally may not do well in a classroom full of 25 people. Sally
Right.
may need to come and work in my office where I only have four workstations, so it's just a
Mm.
matter of learning your students.
Mm.
They have to trust you. So back to, you have to form the relationship. So um that's just, it's just embedded in me. That's just what I do. And I feel like as long as they have the motivation that they want to do, and
Mm.
sometimes it takes a little, little nudge here and a nudge there and some
Absolutely.
motivation, helping them with motivation, they can do whatever they want to do.
That is so good. That is so good. And this is why we're having that conversation because I firmly believe the same thing. And I do honestly think that if we had enough people that cared the way that you do, the way that we are, the reason why this conversation is even happening in the first place, it will ultimately change the trajectory in terms of how people actually feel like they can really open up to other people around in their environment, right? Because, oftentimes we are drowning in our own silence, you know, because we have been constantly told that, well, nobody cares. And we've heard that. And then we've also seen that and also experienced it. And so to hear you, you know, being so aware of your environment, not only knowing that, like, I can't just count them out just because they're so-called in this, special ed class. What does that even mean? No, we're just going to take even more time to figure out what they want, what they need specifically of how they can furthermore learn. And then I've been on the backlash of that as well. And this is why I love this conversation is because see, there was so many people that I know that when I was, going through the education, when they were seeing this report, they looked at me as like, you just
Hmm.
don't got it. Based
Hmm.
off of what I'm seeing here. this is going to be the final say so in terms of what we do next. So, based off of this, oh yeah, it looks like you need to actually stay back a year, right? And so I remember there was a very, very pivotal moment in my life where there was multiple of those conversations year after year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't for my mom, my guardian angel that God has, blessed me with, that at the time I didn't see it as a blessing. I seen it because if I'm looking at school as being a punishment, I'm like, well, mom, you're the one that's putting me through this. Why am I getting punished? Right? Why am I getting
Right.
punished to do something that I don't even see what's going to benefit us, years later to do? It just feels like a waste of time. And so because of that focus that I had led me to just not wanting to do the work. That doesn't
Mm-hmm.
say that I'm not capable. That just simply means that if you don't show me why I'm doing what I'm doing, you just say, hey, do this paper because you have to do it. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But what happened was the results were the same because whether I did the work or I didn't do the work and I'm not capable, because this report card mattered to them more than anything else, they're waving this in my face and humiliating me and saying, you just don't got it. It's okay if you stay back. No, it's not okay. Right. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember that crushed me because here it is. My teacher is now saying to me, look at me dead in my eyes. Parent conference. He says, Elijah, it's a good chance you're probably not gonna pass this year. And he's nodding his head, wanting to look at me for confirmation, like not saying me. This is on you. You know that, right? We're agreeing. I'm just looking at him like, wow, like here it is. This is the teacher that's teaching this class. Who am I to say that he doesn't know best? He's the one teaching
Mm-hmm.
class. So, I mean, clearly he should have some form of information to say whether or not, I got it or I don't.
Yeah, and he's the adult. He should know.
He should know, right?
That's what you think.
That's what you think. And then now it led into, well, because of that belief that I had, I'm like, yeah, I mean, he's right. And I kid you not, it was like I no longer had the strength. I'm literally looking down and literally my eyes are still open, but I was starting to lose my eyesight. It was just
Mm-hmm.
polka dots, and pitch black now.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden I'm seeing myself falling in third person, just in this never void, just of darkness. And kept
Mm-hmm.
asking myself the questions of why am I even here if I'm not gonna be successful? Because what they always told us was, if you want to be successful, you gotta go out there, to school and learn. So if they're telling me I don't have it, then that also now means that I'm not gonna be successful. So I'm like, what does this all mean? All these question after question, but not getting no answers. So now, why am I here? What is my purpose? Why do I even have to go through this? Why me? Whatever the case may be. And it just felt like I was in there for an eternity, just falling, no answers, no answers. And all of a sudden, I hear this voice says, you're not going to talk to my son like that. I was like, what in the world? And so now the falling has stopped and somebody has braced the fall by holding me up by my wrist. And now I'm seeing in third person this light glowing around me. And now that gave me the hope. That gave me the desire, the curiosity to now be able to. I was blinking my eyes because now I'm like, what in the world is happening? I'm curious. I have to figure out what this is. What is happening? And then I hear it's my mom fighting for me, and she's like, "Yeah, you're not gonna talk to my son like that. Like here it is. You're over here supposed to be the teacher, supposed to be uplifting him and encouraging him, showing him what is possible. And here
Mm-hmm.
you are talking about all the things that he's not, or what he can't do, or whatever the case is." And she says, "What you don't realize is, see, you have him for a semester, but
Mm-hmm.
I have him for a lifetime. So you're not gonna
Lifetime.
talk to him that way."
Absolutely.
And what that made me realize in that moment in time is I might have, the lines blurred a little bit because even though I'm still seeing right now school has been a punishment, I don't see the purpose of it or why I'm doing the things that we are so called forced to get, to
It
do.
wasn't relevant to you.
It wasn't relevant. And so now in this moment, I know what his words did to me when he told me I ain't got it, but I know what her words did to me when now
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing like, wait, you're telling me it is possible? You're telling me I am capable and all these other things? Like, but we can't argue against him. He's a teacher, right? And so I was very conflicted at this point. But if it wasn't for this previous conversation that we had a little bit in the past, where she told me, Elijah, if there ever came a point where you felt like you couldn't open up to me or your dad to share what's on your heart, there's always one person that you can always go to. And she just left
Absolutely.
this spread of time for me to just build up curiosity. Who could it be? I'm trying to guess who it could be, whatever the case may be. Nothing was coming to mind. I'm just curious. I'm waiting. I'm like, yeah, well, what is it?
Mhm.
Right? She was the one person that you can always go to is God.
Yeah, absolutely.
But see, at the time, I didn't know what that meant.
Mm.
Right? I'm like,
You have
that
to grow a
sounds
little
good, but
bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
what does that mean? Right. And so
Hmm.
I was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna take your word for it though, right? So it was now in this situation that I was very conflicted because the person I felt like was punishing me for things that I'm like, there's no reason for us to do this at all. How's it going to improve the quality of our life and all these other things? Right. There's people out there getting degrees and not even using them. So at an early age, I was already being aware of my environment, seeing that. And so I was like, wow, this is that moment. And so I didn't feel like I could open up to my mom. I felt like she wasn't going to be able to understand at the time. Didn't feel like I was going to be able to open up to my dad. So, wow, okay, well, so okay, God. Um, I don't know what all this means, but I'm really struggling now. I had this one way of thinking that something was true, and it's literally making me having this, opposing, it's like literally challenging my way of thinking so much that I don't know which one I should really believe. But I believe there is some truth. And if I feel like I could never even go to them, that I could go to you. And I don't know what any of that means. But she always told me that you are the nucleus of my
Hmm.
life, and let alone this family. So I'm coming to you now, broken, hurt, confused, don't know what direction to go. But one thing that I do know is I'm willing to change because here it was, I was allowing myself to be so focused on what I want to do that I was hurting the person that has been fighting clearly so hard for me. And they are showing me that they're willing to go through ends on ends through the earth and back to fight for me. But I'm not even
Hmm.
willing to fight for myself. So I said, I'm no longer going to allow my emotions or what I feel like school is to be doing for me. I'm going to do it for her. So whatever it is that we have to do, I'm willing to do it. But I didn't know at the time that's when I actually really made a decision. Because see, there's a difference between a choice and a decision.
Decision. Correct.
Right. See,
Correct.
choice means to pick one. Right. So
Hmm.
today you might choose to, operate in a different way of thinking. But that doesn't mean you're going to operate in the same way of thinking tomorrow. Right.
Correct.
You just wanted to experience something different. But the word
That's
decide,
it.
decide or decision, right?
Totally different.
Totally different because the root word for de means from, and the word side means to cut. So when you make a decision or decide to do something, you are now actually cutting yourself off from any other
Hmm.
possibility. There is no plan B. This is what we're doing now. And so it was in that moment that I realized things was literally starting to click, not because of you know, just discovering this hidden ability or anything like that. It was just now I'm willing to do the work because the focus is not on me no more. I'm focusing on how what I'm willing to do can impact somebody else's life as a result,
Hmm.
you know, and didn't know that. But things started to click for me. But if it wasn't for God already knowing what I needed at that time to get that major shift, who knows what my life would be like. So the reason why I'm resonating so much with your story is because I know there's so many other people that haven't made it to the other side because their environment wasn't in the ways of ideally what's allowing them to get that ultimate help that they needed to see that other side of life. And so that's why I just gotta, like I said, also give my kudos to you as well. And I loved what you mentioned before of they didn't wait until Thanksgiving to give thanks. Y'all were
No,
doing that every Thursday to give thanks, to give, the flowers to the heroes that are right there in your life. You're giving your flowers to the people that are still alive versus giving it to the ones that are already gone.
right,
We see that all the
right.
time at funerals. But
Yeah.
were they aware of that while they were still here? And so I love that that was, the environment that you were creating also, for these kids. So that is absolutely critical and amazing, you
And
know?
so something that you said, Elijah, I have to go back when you
Yes.
said about the piece of paper.
Mm,
S- I used to tell my students because before they enrolled, we would have a meeting because we wanted to go over academic history, attendance history, and discipline history to make sure that the student is going to be a good fit for the program.
mm,
They come with their parents. It's like you said, you were broken.
yeah.
They don't even have an aspiration to get a high school diploma. You ask them, what do you want to do? They have no earthly idea. But I would tell them when we sit and we go over these things, and most of the time, if you're at this dropout prevention program, they don't, you don't look so good on paper. And I would
Mm,
tell them, you don't want somebody to meet you on paper before they actually meet you.
that is so good.
So I would say now, this is where you were, and this is what is on paper, but we're
Mm,
closing this chapter. And we're
mm,
we're going to a new chapter. So we're not even going to visit this stuff that's already on paper. We're going to
yeah.
start with a clean slate. So in that building, we didn't do discipline. We don't have fights. And it was
Mm,
amazing once you set the expectation up front. They do what is expected of them in that building. Now, once they left out the door, they could be whoever out there in the street. But inside that building, they were
yeah.
model citizens.
Come
And
on.
I will never forget, I had one of my English as a second language student. He was new to the country, didn't speak English very well.
Mm,
The second day of school, as students are leaving out the door, the same way I open it for them in the morning, I'm holding it open in the afternoon and I'm telling them, have a great afternoon. And I'm calling people by their name. And he stood on the other side of the door. And
mm,
after everybody left, he came to me and he said, Miss Thomason, how do you know everybody's name? I said, the
oof.
same way I don't want you calling me, hey, you. I'm not going to call you that. So I'm going to take the time to
Ooh,
learn your name. At
jeez.
graduation, every year, I'm the one that calls students to walk up on stage to get their diploma. Every year, like I told you, it'd be about 100 of them.
Mm,
We didn't require them to sit alphabetically.
mm,
I call these kids by name, and I don't have any index cards. I don't have a roster. And they're all dolled up. Now, some of them I might have to look, because the girls start looking like the weekend, So I'll be like, wait a minute, let me look,
yeah.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
But I know every single one of them, and I will have parents and
Mm,
the dignitaries that are there come up to me every year after graduation. How do you know all of those students' names? I know my kids.
mm,
I know my kids, and it's something as simple as learning their name because some, like I said, have fallen through the cracks in traditional public school and they think people don't see them.
yeah.
But once I know their name and I'm calling them by name, and now I'm messing with you, I'm getting all in your business, I'm doing all of the things
Yeah.
because I want you to be successful. I'm gonna bring you out of your shell, but it's something as small as learning their name and forming that relationship can change their whole trajectory.
Mm, mm. Couldn't agree with you more because now you're showing them that they matter and that
Yeah.
most importantly, you can see them.
Yes,
And
I
too
see
many
you.
people are able to walk around in a line and all this other stuff, but they do feel invisible, And so
Yeah.
I'm so glad that
Yeah.
you're shedding that light like a flashlight. No,
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 I see you.
you've been spotted. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, and I do them just like this. I see you.
Come on, you're right. All right, spotlight is on you.
Yeah.
Look directly in your eyes. They even try to maybe look around or whatever. No,
You.
isolate you. Right, right. That is
That's it.
fantastic. That is fantastic. And so to even hear how you've done so much, even to, inside of the community, to then furthermore create this amazing program that you're embarking on this new journey yourself to specifically allow the youth to get this further education. And now you're doing all of these training processes, figuring out, different perspectives and things of that nature. Do you ever see yourself also sharing the entrepreneur side as well? That if somebody didn't want to necessarily have to work for somebody else, right? Are you willing to kind of bridge that gap as well? Like, what is kind of just the next, kind of steps for this?
Yeah, like I can build a system. I
Mm,
know what it takes to build the system. I know the components. And I know once you build the system, what's needed inside the system to make the system work and make the
mm,
system successful.
mm,
So I could build a model because I do think that ultimately that is my goal is to build the
mm.
model.
Yes.
But I could teach anybody how to build it. They
Mm.
have to be willing to do the work. And they're just sometimes little things that you have to implement that make all the difference in the world.
Oh, that's so good. And to even bring that to more to I believe why we do the things that we do is because we feel fulfilled. We feel like it's a
Yeah.
calling on our lives, right? To be
Yeah.
able to touch somebody else's life, to know that you had a little piece to play into just that little tweak there. It gave them an opportunity, right? Because you can
Mm-hmm.
do everything for somebody. And then again, as it was before, what we were talking about is it's like you pouring into somebody else, but if they got a hole in their cup, as
Yeah.
much as they want to receive, if they don't do anything about that hole there, right? Because nobody else can fulfill that hole for you, right? You may try to latch onto all these other things, try to, be in these certain, communities or whatever the case may be, but
Mm-hmm.
you're still drowning at the end of the day. And so if you can't allow yourself to get the necessary substance that only can fulfill that, which I ultimately believe is God, that can show you where you're broken and he can patch that thing up, good
Yep.
as new, to the point where now what you're starting to see of nothing but increase happening in your life, that is the transformation that I feel like, more people need to experience, but they can only experience that if we're first walking the walk and talking the talk as
Mm-hmm.
well. We have to be congruent with our words. We can't, like as you mentioned before, you can't be one moment trying to build relationships with them and then doing something significantly different in terms of what you show them in class and all these other things. It's
Yeah.
now contradicting one over the other,
Yeah.
right?
And it doesn't work. That doesn't
It
work.
works.
Children model what they see.
Mm, come on,
They
you know.
model what they see. You can talk till your lungs collapse, but they're absolutely going to model what they see.
Mm,
I've been in this game for a long time now. They're gonna
mm,
model what they see. I mean, and that's from, knee high to a grasshopper all the way up. So, you have to, the word says you train them up in the way that you want them to go and they won't depart. So,
ooh,
that's that's just the nature of it. And it comes full circle. So,
mm,
what you pour into them is exactly what you're gonna get out of them.
mm. Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. And that's honestly where, I was having a little bit more resistance towards it too, because the name of being a teacher, coach, whatever the case may be. In a lot of ways, you're being a mentor to somebody else, right? And
Hmm.
so, where did you get the strength, to be able to say, you know what, I have something that I do know that I can provide to somebody else? Like, how did you get over that? Overcoming challenge of, not caring necessarily what somebody thinks about you or whatever the case may be, to still just be able to deliver what you came there to deliver.
It's so funny that you asked me that because I
Mm.
had to literally say to myself just a couple of days ago when I
Wow.
found myself reaching out for maybe a second or a third time for different stakeholder perspectives that I really wanted that had not responded. I had to get to that point that I said, you know what, God, this is your project.
Wow.
You don't give us the spirit of fear. So however it goes and whoever wants to participate, I'm okay with that. And
Mm,
whatever I get is what I will use and I'll take it from there. But I'm not going to have the spirit of fear because it took
mm.
months for me to stop being disobedient about even starting the framework for the business,
I hear
period.
you. I hear
It
you.
took some months for me to just stop, be like, oh, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. No, God was
Ever.
like, no, you need to do it now. I have given you the opportunity. So many people that have the desire to want to open a business, but they're stuck at a 9 to 5. When you finish that 9 to 5, then you're tired, you're burnt out. You don't have the
Yep.
energy, to be able to do. But He has blessed me with the opportunity that my brain has been able to take a break. I've given you this opportunity. You have no excuse as to why you haven't that you can't do it. So I
Um,
had to just tie my bootstraps tight and hey, go get it. So
yeah.
that's where I am with it. Um, I know what state I'm talking about doing some work in. It
Mm,
took me getting a little bit older to learn, some things about politics and things of that nature, but I know
mm.
who my major politician is, so I don't worry about
Come on.
I don't worry about all of the stuff. I'm just
Mm,
gonna do what he lays on my heart to do,
mm.
and I'm gonna be okay with that.
That is so good. That is so good. And the reason why I had to ask you that is because, this interview is kind of um it's a double-edged sword. It's affecting me, but it's also affecting, the lives that we're also going to share this too. And the reason why I'm asking you that is because I know that's something that I used to struggle with as well. I'm like, well, here it is. Again, I didn't really have the best of experiences with it, being a teacher, or having somebody to teach me or whatever the case may be. So let alone getting into the environment where you're literally going to teach somebody else something, right? That I knew how devastating it was for me when that wasn't done correctly.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
now was a very laughable moment to now see that very experience of what was so traumatic for me because oftentimes when you grow through something so earlier on, you don't even know how to take it. You don't know what it means, right? We
Mm-hmm.
don't have, the wherewithal to understand that this is going to work out for your greater good if you allow yourselves to see the other side of that coin, right? Because you only can get that what you focus on. There's always a positive and a negative to every situation. But the thing is, if you turn that coin over and you see tails, then guess what you only able to see?
Tails.
Only see that of the tails and
Mm-hmm.
everything that also comes with it,
Mm-hmm.
until you're willing to flip it on the other side of that equation to experience that other side as well. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I can point out that are negative about the situation that happened to me, whatever the case may be. I won't wish it on nobody else, right? But it did happen. Let's own it, right? And how do we overcome it? We overcame it because of the one we relied on most importantly in that time of need, right? And so that's what I love about that story is because now when we allow ourselves to not be defined based off of what somebody else thinks about us or tells us,
Mm-hmm.
we really can be that person to be all that God told us we were and more.
Okay,
You
let me
know?
tell you two things as we get ready to wrap this up.
Come
I
on.
learned this early because I always growing up, all my dad's side of the family was educators, and I always said, I'm never going into teaching. I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that.
Hmm.
I graduated from college, and that was the first and only thing I could do with my career where I was living. So I
Hmm.
tell people, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. That's the first thing. Tell him
That's
your
good.
plans, and then
Boy.
you see how that works out for you. But tell him your plans. The second thing is he has to take us through tests in order for us to be a testimony. Because if we never gone through a thing, how we gonna be able to tell somebody else how he got us through?
Mm, that part. That part.
But I will say for this interview, this is my first podcast interview. And so
Oh,
I would like to thank you, Mr. Bryant,
mm,
for making me step outside of my box.
mm,
I would say I wasn't prepared, but
mm.
the word says, be ye also ready. So there it is.
Come on.
It was
Oh,
wonderful. I enjoyed the conversation. I think it was very rich, and I
mm,
look forward to more of them.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you heard it from here first, Mr. Dr. Thomason. This has been an absolute pleasure. And so, yeah, with that, you guys just stay blessed.